Hello, everybody. This is Romantic, and I am going to remake the class that we were having last week since we had some technical difficulties yet again. So, I am going to show you in this class just very simply how to use some of the tools that I use for upscaling. um, of course, keep in mind that I am no expert. This is just simply different things that I picked up from trying different kinds of mods, but hopefully they are helpful to you. Um, right now, I am refitting the High Summoner dress for TBSE. Don't worry if you are working on a different body. The whole point of this is that ideally the tools that I'm going to show you will help you no matter what body you are working with. Um, I do, however, need to mention that this is a little more aimed towards people that already know how to upscale a body. If you really are like at zero, you don't know where to start, you don't know how to do this, then please watch Eggy's class first because they cover all of the basics and simplifies everything a lot so anyone can get started. But this will be a little more elaborate. So first off, I am going to show you how to use the lattice modifier. The lattice modifier is very helpful when you have a whole, well, it could be one part or several parts, but when you have a full outfit that requires a lot of adjusting towards the body. This one in particular, this body doesn't require nearly as much adjusting as the bodies that, or I should say the outfits that I am normally working with. But I still do want to use the lattice for this, so I'll show you. You go into add in object mode. Make sure that you are there before you go into add, and then you put the lattice. So you're going to have a cube. This cube works like any object, meaning that if you press G, you can move it around. If you press S, you can scale it up or down. So make sure that first you put it like around your body and your clothes, making sure that it's like encasing all of it. Um, and once you do, you see this one is a little too short, so I'll make it bigger. Once it's covering all of the body and all of the clothes, you will go here to the object data properties, and we're going to change the resolution U, V, and W. I usually do like maybe 8 or 10 for the number. I make all of them into 10. So it has a lot of different um, options to move from. And once you have it like this, you need it to affect the clothes that you want. So once you have the lattice set up, you can go into the outfit, click it. If the outfit has several parts, you will have to do this with every single part as well. You go into the modifier properties, this little blue wrench, and then you're going to add a lattice modifier. So once you add the lattice modifier, make sure that the object is the lattice that we have currently. It could be, you could have several lattices laid out. That's why it makes you choose. But we only have one, so it's very simple. And also, something that is usually recommended with Blender is that you grab this modifier and put it at the top just because it makes it a priority, and that can be important um, in some situations. Then we do the same with the skirt. You go and in the modifier properties, you add another lattice modifier and you select the one that we have here. Make sure that the lattice symbol here is white. If the lattice is red, it means that you haven't selected the object lattice, so it's not going to work. So now that we did this, the clothes now register that the lattice is affecting them. So you go and select the lattice and then you go into edit mode. And now you can do things in two different ways. You can either select one specific vertice, then hit G and move that vertice in particular. That is what I'm doing right now. Or you can also like, I am using the select box tool, so I can click outside of the space and drag down to select in this particular angle all of the vertices that are over here. And now whenever I move G, it's going to move everything that I have. It's actually affecting more than I want, so I'm going to hit escape and I'm going to remove with pressing control and then drag, click and drag the box. I unselect everything and I will move this instead. That's better. All right, we have this. Don't worry if there are parts that you cannot quite reach. For example, here there is a little bit that um, I might struggle to move or to affect because it's so close to the skin and I cannot really see the vertices and stuff. Also, they might affect more parts than I really needed to move. So at the moment, it's a little difficult to work with that. But I will come back to it. Just I won't use the lattice for it. The lattice is good for very general big movements, and once you finish with the big movements, then it's recommended that you get rid of the lattice and start working with proportional editing, which should be or is usually the main tool that you use for upscaling. There we go. All right, so maybe I'll move this one a little bit as well. Okay. Play with it, experiment with it. It can save you a lot of time, in my opinion. It's a very good tool to use. But all right, it looks like, um, yeah, it looks like I made the biggest changes already. I can now get rid of the lattice here. If you have a more complicated mesh or with more parts, obviously this might take a little longer. But once you're done, in order to make sure that the changes that we made stay, because if you just delete the lattice, everything is going to go back to how it was. So in order to keep the changes that you made, you want to go to each of the parts of the clothes again, and you want to go here and click apply to make sure that the lattice affects everything permanently. The same thing with the part of the skirt. I just go here and apply it. Now, if you have shape keys in your clothes, here you can see if you have shape keys. If you have shape keys, it's very likely that the um, well, Blender is going to tell you, oh, could not apply the um, could not apply the lattice modifier because you have shape keys. So if you want to apply them, you would have to get rid of the shape keys. This is shape keys are not super important in some clothes. However, you might know that in some cases it's going to be necessary to use them, particularly with some metadata or things like when you're adjusting with hair, you want to make something hat compatible, like those type of shape keys are going to be important. So I got recommended a plugin that I don't currently have, but I recommend looking into it, that lets you apply modifiers and also keep your shape keys. If I find it, I will add it to the description of this class, because I think that could be very helpful. Um, and well, anyway, once you applied everything, now you can get rid of the lattice. Now you don't need it anymore, and it's not going to affect anything that you had here. This is ideally the part where everything is just, well, just needs a few adjustments. So with proportional editing, you should be able to make those adjustments without too much trouble. Um, if you are a person that struggles with proportional editing or you don't like working with it, you can also use the sculpt tools. I'm going to show you in a moment how. Um, I like the sculpt tools, but I feel like they are a little limited when it comes to well, they feel like kind of like the lattice modifier to me. Like I feel like they are helpful for making like big changes, but I feel like all of the little details are a little bit easier to figure out with the proportional editing. At least that's how I feel personally. Um, so I kind of combine both, but whatever is more comfortable with you is okay. So let me try to actually use them here. If you select your clothes and then you go into sculpt mode, you're going to get these tools over here. Um, and they all do different things. A lot of them is recommended that you don't even touch them because they can make some interesting problems with the textures and stuff. But at least things like the elastic deform and grab I find to be useful for upscaling. This one over here that looks like a little hat, you grab whatever you need and you can just pull at it from any angle. Um, so some people prefer to do this over proportional editing. They find it a little more intuitive. So you can do that instead. I'm going to lower this here and this over here. Okay. Oh, and also this. All right. Another tool, this tool actually, the elastic deform, can be used if you are like upscaling male to female uh, outfit and you want the outfit to have breasts. You can use the elastic deform to make shapes with it for sure. Obviously, for me right now, it's the opposite. I need to get rid of the breasts, or at least flatten them. So this is actually the main reason that I use the sculpt tools, because you have a tool right here called flatten that will help you with that. But my recommendation is that before you use this tool, it would be better to use proportional editing and make like the general adjustments, like kind of like try to do it little by little, one vertex at a time. So obviously I want it to be as flat as possible, but that it looks like a normal chest. So there's still going to be a little bump uh, in them. Um, and okay, I think that works. It's a little messy, but it's just for demonstration in this case. Oh, and I need to expand this a little more. Okay. So I have it like this, and now I am going to go into sculpt mode. I'm going to select my flatten tool. I recommend lowering the strength significantly because these tools can be a little aggressive. So if you lower it a bunch, you can just like very slowly fill it out and be like, oh, I don't see much change. Then I can adjust the strength a little bit. But for example, right now this is already doing, look, it's already doing more than enough. I don't need more than that, and I don't want to like accidentally break the mesh. There are other tools, for example, the smooth tool over here, that could, in theory, help out with that as well. But I find it to be a lot more aggressive, and in parts it can like break things completely, like here. Like I just clicked once and everything broke apart. But if you know how to use these tools, you can also like, make things sink in a little better and stuff like that. But I recommend sticking to the flattening tool. I think that this one is a lot more manageable and easier to use. I can probably use it with this line as well, just to like get rid of some of the little corners, just to like make it a little closer to the body. It's not very noticeable, but you can do different things with it. Um, and I think that the chest looks pretty okay right now. The only difference is the only thing that I notice is that it's a little strange in its shape, so I can use the grab tool for that and just kind of like lower things a little, moving this up slightly. Now it looks more um, a little better, I think. And let's see, can I? Well, I'm going to get rid of this part of the tummy, so I'm going to pull things slightly anyway because I'm getting rid of it. Hopefully you already know the recommendation about this. Like if you cannot see it, yeet it. You don't want it, you don't need it. Okay. I think I feel like now it looks a little too flat, so I'm going to use the elastic tool, make it a little bit smaller, and then do a little bit here and a little bit here. Yeah, that looks better. So play around with it. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with these tools. In some cases, like if you had been fiddling a lot with proportional editing, you might notice that, oh, I kind of left the surface looking a little bumpy. You can fix that with flatten as well. Okay, so that is for the sculpt tools. Now I am going to show you how to do um, the knife tool. Um, I think, yes. Uh, So the knife tool is something that you don't like super need to use every time. Like I know that, for example, with a shape like this, that I basically want to get rid of everything that is below this belt, um, and probably not more. I could get rid of more, but I don't find the need to do that. You can go into edit mode, selecting the body. You can select this option here that says toggle X-ray, and it's going to let you see everything even through the mesh. So you can very easily just like click and drag, select all of these, and then I recommend doing it on face mode, so you can look at the faces and not the vertices themselves. And then you can delete the faces. Uh, in my opinion, this is like the fastest, easiest way to do this, but at times you might have parts of the body that require a lot more cutting that needs to be more exact. So that is where the knife tool comes into play. I'll show you how to use it with this one actually. Um, I recommend that you have an idea of where you want the tool to go through, but select your mesh, select all of it with A, and then you can either come here in the knife tool or you can do Shift K, but I believe that in order to see the settings, you kind of have to click on it. And these are the settings that I currently have on it: occlude, geometry, and X-ray. Um, so once I have everything selected, I can just click and it's going to draw a line wherever I drag my mouse. So in this case, I could make like several cuts here one by one, but I can simply like make one long cut like this, and just going around the body like this. And I finish my circle, I press enter. So now it didn't actually get rid of the body. That's what it's easy to assume because it is a knife. The thing that it does is that it cuts the faces of the mesh, so it's a little easier to tell where everything is. Like you can see, there is now a line that is going through the body in the middle. So what I do is in edit mode, I select here by clicking this little box, I can select the circle option. And this is a lot easier for selecting in the faces mode. So you can very easily just like do this and it's going to select a bunch of things. If you have the X-ray mode, it's also going to be selecting behind it. Um, and like a lot of selecting options, you can just press shift and it's going to keep adding to the selection that you are making. And you can see that the cut that I made is making it easier to make like a straight cut instead of like making it fragmented, because it's all, triangulated. It is all triangles and it's going to have like jagged ends otherwise. So this is more exact and it lets me like cut closer to the part of the cloth that I want. I will, however, especially with vanilla, suggest that you try to leave some space between um, the some space relatively between the cut and the actual clothes, because it might look fine in text tools, but when animated, depending on what part of the body it is and stuff, you might have issues where you can easily tell that the character is just breathing, like their chest is just going up and down, and whenever they do that, you can tell there's a massive hole hiding under the clothes. So be very careful with that. Um, it's something that it kind of requires experimenting. But here is basically the main reason to use the knife tool, like making a almost perfect corset-like cut that I can just do delete and delete faces, not vertices, because if you do vertices, it might cut stuff that you don't want, but just faces. And it's going to be, as opposed to the last one that I had, right? It's completely clean, so it's a lot better to work with that. And I could in theory like cut around here in the chest and go like this and like this, but I think that this part of the body is not going to clip as much, so it should be fine. Now this is there is one more tool that I want to show, but I wouldn't use it for this particular mesh. In general, I wouldn't recommend using this tool with vanilla. I feel like there are many things with vanilla that can complicate using this, which is the shrink wrap modifier. So instead, I am going to open um, a different mesh. This is Atonement by Westlake Tea. And this was very easy to fit to the type of body that I was working with because of the shrink wrap modifier. So this is a tool that you use when the item that you want is like, skin tight, like literally no, well, completely fit to the skin, right? Let me try to show you. I would like to show you like I'm going to move this slightly, like put it somewhere slightly off so you can tell that, oh, it needs adjustment, right? Like let's say that it was fit for a bigger body, so right now it isn't ideal for my particular shape that I want. So, in order to do this, first you have to make sure that you have a perfect copy of the body to shrink wrap to. For example, this particular mesh, like the lace, is one full body. So, if I want the shrink wrap modifier to work perfectly, I would need a chest, hips, and legs, and probably feet because it does continue to the feet, to completely to make a very uh, exact copy of the body. So why I'll show you. If I just simply like, for example, I have my chest over here that it's its own individual part. If I simply go here and use the shrink wrap modifier, which I can do by doing this, I go to the modifier properties, I add the shrink wrap modifier, I put it at the top, and oh, sorry, I am actually choosing the chest, not the clothes. You need to select the clothes for this. You bring your shrink wrap modifier, and then you need to, as the target, you need to choose whatever you want to shrink wrap around, but the target can only be one object. So if I just go and select, for example, the chest, it's going to wrap around, but only the chest. Everything else is going to disappear. So obviously that's not what I want. So I need to make a body, a copy of the body with selecting the hips of the body, the chest and the legs. By selecting all of those, I need to make a copy with Shift D. And when I have all of the new parts in one section, I need to join them with Control and J. So that is already what I did here. Uh, I have this particular version of the body that is all of it. It even has feet, which my model doesn't. I can show it to you. Like, this is a full copy of the body that I made and that I joined, so it's one piece. So now that I have one specific piece, I can now select the clothes and then select my shrink wrap body, the body that I want to do shrink wrap to, and then I need to select the correct options. So the the wrap method and the snap mode might change depending on what exactly you want and how you want it to look. So I recommend fooling around with that. But for the offset, the one that usually works for me is 0.004 for extremely skin tight stuff. And here I can check. Okay, so this is on surface. I'm going to try outside surface. That looks better. And as you can tell, like, it just adjusted everything perfectly with the neck, with the chest, with the legs, and with the feet. Uh, Now that everything is shrink wrap, I can tell all of the parts that are joined working as one. And I don't need to technically move anything else. It's already done, right? So again, if you're working, for example, just with the tights, I would suggest joining, well, making a copy of the hips, the knees, and the shins, and then that copy joining it and using shrink wrap around that copy. Obviously, this shrink wrap copy that I have, I'm not going to use for anything. I can just disappear it and delete it later. As long as I apply the shrink wrap, because of course, if I delete the object right now, it's going to deform what I have here. So once I'm happy with my shrink wrap, I do the same thing that I did with the lattice. I open here and I hit apply. Now, again, keep in mind, if you have shape keys, it's going to tell you that it cannot shrink wrap because it has shape keys. So either get the plugin to make sure that it lets you bypass that particular thing, or delete the shape keys over here if you need it. Um, but yeah, this is how shrink wrap works. And again, I don't think that it's as helpful with vanilla. A lot of vanilla stuff is not very shrink wrap friendly. But if you're working with skin tight mods that other people made, I think that you can make it work pretty well, and it can save you a lot of time and a lot of pain. And I think that's it. At least I covered all of the tools that I currently use when I am upscaling. I hope that they are useful to you. And remember that if you have any problems or any questions while you're working on this, we have the forum section for questions. So make sure to post there, and we'll see if we can help you out. But thank you very much for watching. Take care.